Now hold up. Before you click off the video and you sit there and it's like, oh, you know, the medical support class, we all know how this goes, blah, 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 blah. Hear me out, okay? Don't let the name fool you. Medical-Nin has a lot of really cool options and variations you can use. So, I mean, shoot, let's talk about it. Now, before I let you into the goods, you know what I gotta do, okay? Click it. Click the button. I'm not even gonna say what button. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. It's a little boop. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say it. You know, just do it. We move on. No one gets hurt. Okay, we're all good. I think that's fair. So anyway, now that we've finished that nonsense, okay, hopping straight into it. You know how it goes? Every time it's so good. Every time. But anywho, let's talk ability scores, okay? Now for ability scores, honestly, as a Medical-Nin, you kind of have two main trees you're probably going to go. One is more of that very typical support, helper, team buffer kind of person. In that case, you're going to want a really high intelligence, and then more than likely a high con slash dex. You know, those can kind of be intertwined. It depends if you want to focus more on having a lot of chakra to use your stuff, or maybe you want to be a little more, you know, versatile, harder to hit, that kind of thing. Now, if that one doesn't really tickle your fancy, another option is being more of a bruiser, so something like a Tsunade type thing, right? She can just take hits left and right. In that case, you're really going to want your strength to be quite high because you're going to be in the mix, going to be throwing out some punches, and then you're probably going to look to up your con, maybe intelligence, just that's a little less important, but things of that nature. You're really going to be a bruiser, a tank of sorts. Now, when it comes to clans, a Medical-Nin is pretty nice because you really have a lot of options. Some main ones I would look at. One, Uzumaki. Their chakra pool is just absurd. You get so much room to work with, and you get a lot of ceiling jutsu, which is really nice if you're trying to play that range supporty character, gives you something to lock people down. If you want to go with something a little more flexible than Uzumaki, something like Non-Clan is really good. You get a ton of feats where you can really push your style in one direction or the other, and then Nindos are also quite effective for Medical-Nins. Now, as a final option, if you're going for more the bruiser route, something like a Hoshigaki would actually be a pretty neat combo you could use. And for those of you that are unaware, uninitiated, Hoshigaki are the shark boys, so your Kisumes of the show, right? That kind of thing. And it lets you transform, gaining a bunch of strength. Your con is naturally really high because of your clan, so kind of helps with all aspects of what you're trying to do. Now, hopping right into Jutsus, if this really needs a lot of explaining, you're probably playing the wrong class because it should be pretty clear. Pick things with the medical keyword. Okay, a lot of jutsus with the medical keyword tend to be really, really strong because they'll do a couple of things. One, they'll either support your team, B, support yourself, or C, have pretty effective conditions. There's even some options in there that have pretty strong lifesteal, so if you're going kind of that bruiser route, those jutsus are really, really nice because you can pump out your damage and heal yourself simultaneously, really helping out the squad. So try to focus super hard on medical keyword jutsus. Past that, it's pretty open. More than likely, you're going to want at least one or two pretty decent defensive options because whether you're bruiser or support in the backline, if you leave yourself with no defensive jutsus, no defensive options, you'll probably get blown up pretty quickly because you can only heal so much. Maybe you're the type of player that really is focused on the roleplay of the game. That's fine. Medical-Nin's actually pretty darn good at this because you have options to a lot of different healing jutsus and things of that nature, which can be really sick. If you got, you know, an NPC with a broken leg or an NPC with some wounds, you can patch those up in a heartbeat. It doesn't take long at all, so that's really nice. And you can kind of use this for two main methods, right? So let's say your character is truly a nice person and they're trying to, you know, help the world. That's great. If you can walk around healing people, that will just exemplify that, right? Or maybe you're the opposite and you're more of a bit of a twisted medic, right? Like you can heal people, but you're not really the best of characters. That's fine. You can use your healing as a bit of a schemaz, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can heal some people and be like, look how good I am, right? And then absolutely, you know, twisted halo to horns kind of situation. But, you know, it's really up to you. Overall though, usually Medical-Nins have a lot of options where their jutsus can help in roleplay a ton compared to some other classes. Now finally, our second to last category here, getting into combat. Again, it's going to depend on your style, right? If you are that Medical-Nin that sits in the back, you're gonna have a lot of jutsus that help the team, support the team, whether it's healing them, removing conditions, maybe even amping them and buffing them sometimes. But if you're going more that bruiser route, your combat's going to be very in the mix, fighting heavy, almost taijutsu user-esque. You'll probably be putting out a few less damage numbers than a taijutsu user would, but you're going to have a lot more durability than a jutsu user typically would, because, you're going to be able to heal yourself, buff yourself, all those kinds of good things. So those are kind of the main two styles. You can play bit of a disruptive role, almost similar to a genjutsu user, if you wanted to go that route using medical keyword jutsus to alter the enemy, but that's a little bit more of a niche one that might take a little bit more practice to actually get down, but those are going to be your main ways to get into it. Now, get into what I always like talking about with these classes, and that's the subclasses, because these are what's really going to help you decide what kind of healer you are. And going right ahead and hopping into our first one here, we have the Adept Medic, and these are what you would think they are. If you think of a Medical-Nin, you typically think of what this would be. So this is all about healing your allies, healing your team, keeping everyone alive. If you like to play that typical support role in other games, this is exactly where you want to be. Now, completely shifting gears here, we have the Black Medicine subclass. Now, these guys are going to be more of what I talked about, kind of your affecting the enemy type style. They're really big on poisons and things of that nature. So if you want to be a Medical-Nin, but you want to be a bit of a, let's see, almost like a plague doctor-esque kind of thing, where you're really about, giving the enemy medicine and things like that, this is where you want to be. The Black Medicine track is for you. And now our next one with a fairly obvious name is going to be your Combat Medic. These are going to be your priests that can throw down a punch, right? So if you want to be in the mix, this is kind of what I was talking about for those almost taijutsu-esque Medical-Nins. Combat Medic is yours. They're all about really focus on self-healing type style and just being able to throw out some huge punches, huge numbers, lots of strength, things of that nature. So if maybe you were considering taijutsu user, but you wanted a taijutsu user with a little more sauce and a little more spice, a Combat Medic, Medical-Nin, it would more probably fit your fancy. Now this next one is a very unique twist on Medical-Nin, and that's going to be the Flesh Warpers. Now just as a heads up, in the most recent test document, this whole subclass actually got removed. My theory is because it's kind of doing things that other classes already do, and so they didn't really want to have it as well with all the other ones. But if you're wanting to use an older book or an outdated version once that update finally comes through and they do remove it, hey, this is still an option. And so these guys are going to, well, warp flesh. One of their kind of really cool things that they can do as well is summoning a flesh golem, which is basically a summon of flesh. So a little bit of a darker subclass. If your campaign is going to be very light and very, very happy, not a whole lot of death, things of that nature, this probably is not going to be the subclass for you because it's a bit dark and a bit questionable at times. But if you like the idea of alternating and altering an enemy's flesh or possibly summoning flesh golems, hey, go ahead and give them a shot. Now, wrapping into our last three here, we got natural medicine. And these guys are, think of them as your herb users, your plant users, things of that nature. They're all about kind of taking the nature around them and turning that into their medicine. So, you can create different concoctions through natural methods, things of that nature. And if you like the idea of being in tune with maybe your green side, being a little eco-friendly while healing your teammates, then these guys are going to be yours. And here on our second to last slot, we got Shaman. And these are similar to your Shamans that you know of. They're really big about draining life from their enemies, being kind of one of their main shticks. And the other thing is using almost hex-like genjutsu in the sense of they even have a little feature that lets them apply a hex to an enemy and then kind of abuse that hexed enemy in different ways, taking advantage of that. So if you like the idea of maybe a little more single target because you're kind of hexing individual people and a little bit of life drain, almost vampiric in a way, Shaman's going to be that spot. And last but not least here, we got Transmuter. Now these guys are similar to Flesh Warpers, but the idea is they fight with such surgical precision that they can actually alter the bodies of either you or your enemies or your teammates and things of that nature. So if you really like the idea of altering the bio effects of maybe your teammates or enemies, these are really good for you. So if maybe you liked the idea of Flesh Warper, but you want more of a positive twist on it that you can do, then the Transmuter is going to be more up your alley. And there you have it. That's your Medical-Nin class. Per usual, if you got any questions for me, drop them down in the comments. I try to answer everything I can, try to help you out. And slap that sub button if you could. We have surpassed 800, which is so sick. I mean, I love that every video I make, I get to give some kind of what feels like almost a new milestone, because you guys have been awesome. And if you want to, be sure to hop into our Discord. It's getting more and more active the more people that join. You want to talk some Naruto 5e, maybe just make some friends, have a good time. Our Discord's great for that. We have a great group of people in there. And besides that, I got nothing else for you, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.